Hello everybody, welcome to our presentation. My name is Dr. Rachel Farah. Very pleased to be here with my colleague Bianca Wright today. We're from Coventry University, speaking to you about our vision for immersive within the Faculty of Arts and Humanities. I'll hand over to Bianca, who's going to take you through the first few slides.
Hello, everybody. My role at Coventry University is curriculum lead for Immersive. It's not a role that really has a lot of equivalence in many other institutions, and is something really about putting immersive at the heart of everything that we do. And we're also situated in the Faculty of Arts and Humanities, so quite often we hear, in terms of use cases, very much skills-based training or training that's around things like health and life sciences or engineering and computing. So we're going to be talking today a little bit about how we're approaching the embedding of immersive across the kinds of courses that we offer in our faculty. And those courses range from English literature and creative writing through to history, politics, international relations, all the way to fashion, fine art, sculpture, and our creative technologies suite, which includes digital media, games art, games design and development, and visual effects. So it's a wide range of courses with a wide range of different styles and approaches. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we are approaching this embedding. It's not only, however, about the education component of what we do as a university. When we're thinking about immersive, when we're thinking about what the metaverse means, we're thinking about it in terms of everything that we do, how we work with industry partners, how we work with community. So, that being said, let's start with the traditional classroom. It may look familiar to some of you, and I know from earlier panels that many of you are working in education at the moment. And this is pretty much what you're confronted with many times when you walk into any kind of educational environment. This puts the instructor at the center, the sage on the stage, much like we are here at the moment, with everybody following them and looking at what they're doing. It doesn't put the student at the center of what we're doing. And so part of the principle of our immersive strategy for looking at the way we can change education going forward is really to rethink what it means to be in an educational environment. And of course, online learning has done that in different ways. We've had the pleasure and the privilege of having to pivot very quickly over the last couple of years to online learning in various forms and to hybrid, whatever that means. A very difficult and complicated approach, which means that we either have our full attention on the students in the classroom in front of us, in a scenario much like this one, or we have our full attention on the students on the screen, those wonderful little icons, many of them not even having faces. And so that has been a real challenge for us. It's been something where we've seen innovation happening, but it's also made real for us the incredible challenges that students face in terms of being able to access education in different ways. Now, the approach that we're taking is not only about how we approach the classroom in that physical sense, it's also about how we change the way we think about the virtual. That being said, core to what we're doing is a new physical infrastructure that we've developed. So this is our new Delia Derbyshire building. It's opening in 2023, and it's putting collaborative, interdisciplinary work at the heart of our faculty, at the heart of what we do. And it's doing that in a number of different ways. So we have spaces that allow for our students, our staff, our enterprise partners, our community partners, and indeed the community itself to come in and collaborate with us in different ways. So we have a hyper studio, we're calling it a hyper studio. What that is, it's a big cube, lots of power and data going into that, reconfigurable in multiple different ways, big open space designed very much for people to look in and to participate in different ways. So you can drive a car in there, you can have a performance in there, you can iterate various projects within that particular environment collaboratively. But it's designed to make and share. Also within that same environment, we have two immersive studios. So we have a new performance capture studio with collaborative VR and mixed reality coming on stream, together with an immersive audio studio, which focuses on mixing and creating spatial and binaural audio. So a 10x4x2 Dolby Atmos system with a mixing desk. And then Related to that, our hack spaces, electronic, so very much in the mold of Internet of Things, sensors, microcontrollers, those kinds of things that we've been experimenting with for a number of years, but also a digital hack space, thinking very much differently about what does it mean to hack and how do we actually do this with technologies that perhaps don't have the same kind of physical footprint. The other thing to bear in mind about Delia Derbyshire is it also puts collaboration at its heart. So it has an enterprise suite, and that's where my colleague Rachel Farrar, for example, does a lot of work with industry partners. It also does still have that, lecture theatre, auditorium, those kinds of spaces. Because, as some people have said in previous panels earlier today, it's quite difficult to pivot wholesale in changing everything that we do when we've been doing it the same way for so long.
Okay, excuse me, my voice is clearly not working very well at the moment, too much talking at this conference. Thinking a little bit about what we do then, and Bianca's just contextualised that really nicely in terms of thinking about the collaboration between education, industry and research. We, coming from the Arts and Humanities faculty, are interested in that intersection between creative arts, technology and enterprise and how that moves us into new territory. So we're always bringing together lots of different partners into that space. And we do lots of work with the creative industries and artists and artistic communities, but we've also worked across automotive, retail, hospitality, sports, all sorts of subject areas that are interested in connecting with us because we approach it from a creative perspective and connect our students into that development. We respond collaboratively to industry needs in order to create bespoke offers that help them stand out. And again, a regular sort of feedback that we get from projects is the idea of us really offering a kind of USP. So people saying, actually, we come back to you, or we want to continue working with you because you've given us the edge over other people, or you've given us that kind of unique aspect that we don't see in other places of industry. And again, we really feel that that's because of the kind of creative first philosophy that we offer. As you've just heard, the Delia Derbyshire building and the ethos that comes from that is really about connecting the sort of physical and digital spaces. And as Bianca said, we do have some quite traditional looking classrooms, but we also have spaces which architecturally have really been designed to, I was going to say the word force, and I'm not going to say it, I'm going to say facilitate a different way of working. So more of a kind of workshop environment that enables students to collaborate. And just recently, actually, we worked on a project with the Ministry of Defence, some of whom are in the room today. They came in and we had a session that brought together students from across the faculty, across the university, so from all sorts of subject areas, collaborating with staff members from the Ministry of Defence and our academics, working in a collaborative workshop. There was no tables, no chairs in the room. We weren't there to all sit down and face someone and hear them talk. We were actually having a really, truly immersive learning experience in the space. We're building the future workforce in terms of thinking of creative problem solving. So the fact that our students are experiencing that kind of education, albeit sometimes alongside a more traditional one, is putting them at the best possible opportunities ahead of them in terms of connecting with industry and understanding the interdisciplinarity of most most work opportunities that will be out there for them. So everyone, as Bianca will go on to speak about, will engage with technology in our faculty, regardless of the subject area they come from, and they will all be encouraged to think about that hybridity of their subject areas and how it can be adapted and connect with other areas. And then we're working across creative technologies, and I imagine that most people that are here at the moment are familiar with that kind of idea of convergence. So we work with AR and VR and AI. We're doing projects around haptics. We're doing work around projection mapping. And obviously the really fun place is thinking about how that intersects, where they overlap, and how that then feeds into different industries and helps our students think about the possible jobs that there might be in future for them, thinking about that collaboration, which don't even exist at the moment. And then here's just a nice little grid that gives some examples of the kind of things that we can do. And universities are quite uniquely positioned that they can access lots of different streams of sort of money and resource and output. So we sort of position ourselves as thought leaders. We do host events and conferences and events and exhibits and offer that kind of critical debate. So working with industry, bringing people together with our students, with our academics. We also have access to lots of funding streams, often government funding that gets channeled through universities to facilitate innovation projects between research communities and innovation, and we've got some really nice case studies that we'll talk about, examples of that. We also do lots of work in terms of kind of proof of concept or rapid prototyping, so working with companies who want to develop ideas with us. And then I think the really interesting one there actually is the idea of live briefs for students. Some of the most interesting projects that we've done have come from perhaps initially a very small workshop that a company's come in to deliver with students. The projects that students feed back to them end up kind of exploding and turning into some quite big, ambitious projects. And it's truly come from industries setting that initial challenge to students and then the inventiveness of what they come up with to respond. So yeah, it kind of gives you an overview really of the ways that we connect with industry.
But as we know, the paradox of higher education and education more broadly is that we're both very eager to innovate and very conservative when it comes to change. And so what we realized very early on is that it's important not only to help our students understand how learning may change, how we can use immersive in different ways to do this, but also to help our staff come with us on this journey. And we're very lucky in the Faculty of Arts and Humanities to have a real vision around immersive and immersive education, around what we are as a faculty and where we sit in the ecosystem. But we need to enable and empower our staff to come along with us on that journey. And not to point you out, earlier you had the question, how do you find the time to be able to do that? And that's a question that, of course, we've battled with for some time now as we're moving on this journey. So one of the things that we've done is we have convened 3 groups of staff from across our faculties. So you may be in a group with people from English literature, fashion, digital media, automotive design, and product design. And we set a challenge in the same way that we set challenges for our students, we set a challenge for our staff to think about the concepts, not just the spaces, but the concepts of hack, hyper, and immersive. What can you do with those spaces, with those technologies, with those tools, but most importantly, what can you learn from those approaches? And so we've convened these 3 groups, and they've started, they're not at the point of outcome as yet, but they've started to work through the process and the tools and technologies that they're using. So our hack project is exploring different approaches to hacking with a focus on hack the building. So Delia Derbyshire, I'm sure most of you know, she's most famous for the Doctor Who theme song, but also, of course, for her work in R&D, her work in innovation, her work in approaching things from a really interesting test bed kind of approach. And so the building is named Delia Derbyshire. The approach that we have is really inspired by the way that she worked. And so what they're doing is creating a hackable version of the Delia Derbyshire building. The idea that we can collect audio from different spaces, feed that back into others, and have microcontrollers and smart boards to share that in different ways and to co-create. And so just... Oh, I'm hoping this is, yes. So that's just a very early experimentation that some of the staff are doing. Bear in mind that many of these staff members are not coming from disciplines which are digitally led or digital first. They are coming from more traditional disciplines in many cases, and so they're getting to grips with technologies that they may or may not be familiar with. For our immersive project, we are looking at how we can create a scalable, really easy to use backend that will allow staff to create immersive experiences using projection mapping. So we have a mini, as you can see there, we're in the process of building a mini space that mimics what the immersive studios can do with 5-wall projection, and a back end that's being developed to allow any staff members, any students, any enterprise partners to feed content into that and to display it in an immersive experience. We're very fortunate in Coventry to also have the Real Store, which is our immersive art gallery, and we're thinking about how we can link what it is that we're doing, what we're creating in these spaces into those kinds of initiatives more broadly. But we're also looking at how we change student practice. So I don't know, has anybody ever taught a class where the assessment is an essay? No? Just us in arts and humanities? Cool, okay, that's not a problem. But for many traditional courses, essays, presentations, tend to be very traditional, very conventional. And so one of the things we're wanting to do is change the way that our students and our staff think about assessment. It doesn't have to be an essay. It doesn't have to be a traditional presentation. And I'm going to say something as we sit here with PowerPoint slides. This is exactly what this changing in student practice is all about. We want them to get rid of PowerPoint. Sorry, Microsoft. We want them to get rid of PowerPoint and think differently about how they share their ideas, their research, their learning. And so we did something that doesn't happen very often in education. We told students we weren't going to tell them what we wanted them to do. We were going to tell them what we didn't want them to do. And they had to come up with a creative response to that. And if you've ever taught a class, you'll know that what students like more than anything is a checklist of exactly what they have to do in order to get that amazing first that they're looking for, that straight A. We didn't do that. So what we did is we had 3 groups of students, each of them doing research in digital media, thinking about different topics. The first group chose AI and creativity, and their presentation was an AI-generated presentation. Everything from the voiceover through to the images was generated through AI. And this was a very clever approach from these students because they were international students. English was not their first language. And while they were creative and technically gifted, they did not articulate in the same way as others. The second group chose to do VR and presented as their avatars in VR, as they were news broadcast. And the third group, you can see over here, chose augmented reality. Their topic was narratology versus ludology, so looking at whether game mechanics or story drove the game. So they developed an augmented reality experience with an inquiry-driven approach to ask questions to get you to think about what you're experiencing when you're in AR. We had given them no guidelines other than no PowerPoint, do something creative with your research. And that's what they came up with. And that's exactly what we want them to do. We want them to inquire, to think differently about things. And we want the same thing to happen with our enterprise projects.
Great, so we're just going to run through a couple of examples then to finish of work that we have been doing with industry as part of this sort of collaborative approach. 5G Creative Explorer was actually quite an innovative project in the UK that used government funding from the Arts Council to create a sort of exploration, testbed, R&D opportunity for creative organisations to think about how they can use 5G technology. And when I'm talking about creative organisations, I'm really talking about fairly small organisations or individual artists who are interested in thinking about technology in the future. So we've seen some quite big, flashy examples of the creative industries adopting XR for all sorts of outputs, but actually for the majority of the creative communities, they don't necessarily have access to the finances, the facilities, the equipment, the knowledge that's needed to explore this kind of area. So to have government funding to support a pool of artists to kind of go through that exploration was really quite special. They did a range of projects looking at, VR, AR, AI, audience engagement. Some of it was about how they produced their artwork, some of it was how they engaged with people, some of it was about the outputs. But very much using it as an opportunity to explore. And we're hoping the next kind of stage of that will be to commission some new pieces that, again, will be really thinking about how we work with people on the ground to explore the use of technology. And, I mean, I was speaking about this to someone earlier. We very much talk about the tech world or the immersive world being a community. And just like that, there's a real strong community of artists. And bridging both of them, as I do in my job, they're very different. You know, the kind of focus on craftsmanship and process over product is what you generally see in the creative world versus often a very money-driven output-led approach in the tech sector. So I think a key part of this is facilitating those two worlds coming together, and the key for this project in doing that was having a creative producer and developer that worked with those companies who could kind of bridge those two worlds for them. So if anyone's looking at doing projects that work with creative industries, I'd say personally that's the real key to it, having people that can help connect these two communities that speak very, very different languages.
So I'm going to rush through the last bit because, as with every good academic, we're in danger of running over time and not being able to finish everything. But so part of our ethos is really about collaboration and co-creation, and so we've developed courses collaboratively with industry, like our MA Game Studio Development. We've also worked on big industry projects with companies like Genesis, that you may know. It's a customer experience company, multinational company in countries all around the world, with big customers like Google, PayPal, and so on. And we worked with them in terms of developing programs for talent acquisition and training, but also giving our students live opportunities. So here you can see in the very poor graphic that's not showing up very well, 3 of our students were sponsored to go to Denver to Experience 19 and to demo their augmented reality retail application that they had developed as part of the Genesis Creators program. So just a few final things, because I know we're over time. When we're thinking about phygital engagement, and yes, I used the word, I know Amy said we shouldn't use that word. I apologize. I think sometimes we need to embrace the language. We're looking at how that spans, merges, and blurs. We want to create that level above the physical infrastructure that we already have, above the ways that we're already doing things, and we're engaging very much with that particular environment. We're also, of course, always, as an academic institution, our role is to be critical of emerging technologies. Our role is to think very critically about how we're using things, why we're using them, and most importantly, what we're actually using. What are we asking our students to do, sign up for, give away in engaging with them? So what we're trying to do is hopefully shape a little bit more about what this thing, the metaverse, the immersive ecosystem, whatever you want to call it, is and how it functions, so that it's a seamless experience for education, a seamless experience, but also a positive one for the world, because that's something that's really important for us as academic institutions. And then just a few other things there. Our approach is very much to pilot and then to scale. So we do a lot of very low-fi, low-tech kinds of projects to test ideas, to test ways of doing things, and then we look at scaling rather than going all in, because it can be very difficult for educational institutions to know, what do you buy? When do you buy it? How much do you buy? Will it be here today and gone tomorrow? I say that as somebody whose first research project in VR was built on the Daydream. Rest in peace. Anyway, so last thing, because I know we're over time, can I ask for some audience participation? Because we do like that. If you can go to pollev.com/Bianca Wright 520, it's up at the top of the screen. I know it's not the most rolling off the tongue kind of URL. We are thinking about how we might brand ourselves as a faculty, how we might think about what it is that we're doing. And so we thought we'd ask you what resonates the most with you. And hopefully, if it's working properly, we'll see it on the screen.
Yeah, and I'd say what resonates with what you've heard today about what we do.
Well, fortunately, we teach, so we're used to technology not working in the classroom. We're perfectly fine with that. But if you want to come and have a conversation with us, we really would love to talk to you. Connect with us on LinkedIn. Continue the conversation. Thank you very much.